Hello everyone. It has been beautifully sunny here and we've been loving every minute of it. We got to take our kids to a splash park and my 7-year-old absolutely loved it, which was a huge deal for him because he doesn't like anything in his face, specifically water. And we had no issues with him out of that at all. So it was a huge win for us because that was part of his birthday party. But we're just going to get kind of into this one today because it's a little heavy. We are on this crazy journey to discover the first documented serial killers in each state. And today we're going to head down to Georgia. Warning. Today's story depicts crimes against children up to and including murder. Viewer discretion is advised. Wayne Bertram Williams was born May 27, 1958 in Atlanta, Georgia. His parents were Homer and Faye Williams, and they were both teachers. He was raised in the Dixie Hills neighborhood. He graduated from Douglas High School with a very high interest in journalism and radio. He attended Georgia University for only a year before he dropped out. And he would go on to have many failed business attempts, including being a music manager, a photojournalist, a music producer, a talent scout. He had so many different interests that he was trying to pursue, and his parents actually ended up filing bankruptcy because of his failed attempts. So now we will move on to what was going on around the area at this same time. On July 28, 1979, the bodies of 14-year-old Edward Smith, who had been reported missing roughly a week prior to the date that his body was found, and 13-year-old Alfred Evans, who had been reported missing only 3 days earlier, were found by a woman who was just out walking. Edward Smith had been shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Alfred Evans had been strangled. In late September of 1979, the body of 14-year-old Milton Harvey was found. By the end of 1979, the bodies of 2 more children, Yusuf Bell and Angel Lanier, were also found murdered. Yusuf had been strangled, while Angel had been tied to a tree and strangled to death. In 1980, the trend continued with the bodies of 2 more children being found and a 7-year-old girl going missing. At this point, the police department called in the FBI because it seemed they may have a serial killer in the midst. So far, all of the children that had went missing or had been found murdered were from or around the Dixie Hills neighborhood. All were black. All came from low-income families. And most were male. Also, all the victims had been found in similar wooded areas. However, that would change in April of 1981. Suddenly, bodies started to show up in the Chattahoochee River and along dumpsters and trash dumps. As more and more bodies were being pulled from the river, it helped investigators to narrow their search down to a specific spot. They started staking out all 14 bridges that span the river in Atlanta. The police hadn't had much luck with the stakeouts and had just received word that the last weekend in May would be their last stakeout. While on surveillance, an officer heard a loud splash around 3 a.m. He then looked up at the bridge overhead and saw the lights come on as the car started to slowly move off the bridge. He had one of the other officers to stop the car. When he did, it was driven by 22-year-old Wayne Williams, who at the time was a freelance photographer. He stated he was checking out an address where he was supposed to pick up a young lady that was going to audition for him the next day. Because the officers were unsure of what caused the splash, they had to release him. But 2 days later, the nude body of 27-year-old Nathaniel Cater washed up downstream. Police brought Williams in for questioning and a polygraph test that he failed 3 times. On June 21st, 1981, Williams was officially arrested. He was found guilty of murdering Nathaniel Cater and 21-year-old Jimmy Ray Pavey on February 27, 1982. His conviction was based on fibers that were located on the bodies that matched the fibers from one of 3 of Williams' cars, his carpet in his bedroom, his bedspread, his blanket, and his German Shepherd. Also noteworthy is the testimony from the officer that heard that splash. That particular officer was a very strong swimmer and had even been a competitive diver. He stated the splash he heard was the same sound a body would make when it hits the water. During the trial, the judge allowed the prosecution to also bring forth evidence that would connect Williams to the 29 children that had been killed since 1979. Now, they were only allowed to bring in 10 cases. So they brought in the 10 that had the most similarities of evidence to the 2 murders that he was already being tried for. These cases all involved fibers from one of the 3 vehicles, hair from the German Shepherd, and or fibers from Williams' bedroom. It was enough to label him as the Atlanta child killer. In the years that have followed this trial, Williams has spent his time trying to clear his name. He insists the murders were done by a member of the Ku Klux Klan. However, the murders stopped once he was apprehended. To further complicate his fight, DNA evidence has proven the hair from the German Shepherd came specifically from his dog, and hair that was found on one of the children was matched with a 98% positivity to Williams himself. Now, when I say that the DNA evidence from the German Shepherd was used, I mean they went and used mitochondrial DNA, which means that they traced any puppies that she had, and they traced them back to her. And that's how they were able to figure out that it was his German Shepherd's hair that was on these kids and these two men. In 2019, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms reopened the case of the Atlanta child murders just to be sure the right person was behind bars. Now, originally, the police were looking for a white male suspect for the murders. They assumed that since all the victims were young, poor, black children, it was a racially motivated crime. But when FBI profiler John Douglas came in and provided the profile, he stated they were looking for a younger black male that hated anyone that was poor. According to several of Williams' friends and neighbors and even family members, he hated the poor kids that were in his neighborhood. And he even made up his own derogatory names for them. And he even used some of those names and directed them toward the prosecutor during his trial. He gave testimony for 2 days, and on the second day, he was a totally different person, and he was very arrogant and very angry, and he even made the remark, "You want the real Wayne Williams? You've got him." And then he just went downhill from there. So I want to make sure that I do put this in here. I came into this case really hoping he was innocent and that I would be able to help lobby for his release, because I wanted to believe that he didn't do it. Because typically serial killers are known to be white males, and it's extremely unusual for the MO and dumping grounds to change so much, as well as the method of the murders. And this is one of those cases that you have to see and understand the evidence before you can decide if he did it. And I can honestly say I had to really, really search to find evidence, because there was no writing that had the evidence in it. I had to actually find a video on YouTube from the original newscaster where he had went in depth in I think it was either 2020 or 2021, and he showed every bit of that evidence. And after seeing it for myself, I just don't see how it could have been anybody else. Hating people that are poor doesn't make you a killer. Being arrogant like he was, and in all the he still to this day, he appears to be very arrogant in his interviews. It still doesn't make you a killer. It makes you unlikable, but it doesn't make you a killer. But when they can tell that the fibers found on the victims came from an extremely rare carpet that was only made during a 6-month to 1 year time period and was in your bedroom, while other items with fibers of the same make and color were found on the victims as well as in your room, that typically means you did it. And I truly believe that the jury made the right decision here. As of 2019, Williams has been denied for 2 of his appeals and has also been denied parole. So, yeah, I am working on getting more statistics for serial killers. It's really hard to find if you're just looking it up. But it's absolutely crazy the amount of evidence that they actually had against him. And to this day, he still denies that he did it, and he's still saying that it was the KKK. And I could understand how, given the time that it was, he could say that. And I can also understand how he could use that as a way to do what he wanted. But he sends the families of these victims Christmas cards and letters. And it's been 40 years. And some of these parents are just now seeing this evidence, and they were lobbying for him because they didn't think he was the Atlanta child murderer. Now, nobody said he didn't kill the 2 adults. They said they didn't believe that he was the child murderer because it was just a totally different MO. It's very, very rare that a serial killer will go from a child to an adult. That's almost unheard of. So to see that from the same person and happen so quickly, I'm just curious what was going on in his mind. But there's still no motive. Because he's denying it, there's no motive. He's denying that he killed anybody. But yeah, this is one that you definitely have to see the evidence to believe they have the right guy. And I am actually gonna try and find that video so that I can post the link for it in the description of the podcast so that you guys can watch it if you want. But yeah, that is the case of the Atlanta child murderers and of Wayne Williams. Let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think he did it? Because I really, when I first heard this story, I really didn't think he did it. And then I saw the evidence, and I'm just like, So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. This podcast is now being listened to in 9 countries, which is mind-boggling for me how fast it has gained popularity. So please continue to tell your friends about it, share it, let me know. I do have a Facebook page. I'm going to be putting up a couple of polls for some ideas So please check out the Facebook page and let me know what you guys think. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my best friends. She has started her own YouTube channel, and it is called Hemriana's Corner. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. But yeah, she's a mom of a 1-year-old, and she's just trying out different items that she uses on her son. And she also has a Twitch account. She likes to play Fortnite and Disney Dreamlight Valley. So if you guys are interested in that, she also has a TikTok. But give her a follow and check her out. She's hilarious, I think. She's one of my favorite people. She's just so funny. And most of the time, she doesn't even have to say anything. She just has to give you a look and you just start laughing at her. So, until next time, guys, stay true and whatnot. Bye.